You are digging your grave with your fork, and it's time to stop. Coming up next, the top 10 foods that destroy your heart. Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Paton, and joining us, as usual, is Martin Pytela, health coach at lifeenthusiast.com. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm full of ideas. I loved the start. Digging your grave with your fork. And we are.
And I quoted you because for decades I've heard you say that, and I've just loved it. The other thing that you say that I really, really like is when you find yourself in a deep, dark pit, the first thing you should do is stop digging. And Unfortunately, most people get a backhoe and speed it up. But so what we're talking about today are it's not really the top 10 foods that are destroying your heart health. It's really a conversation about the different things that can really harm your heart.
Well, let me just butt in here, Scott. I must. Okay. We saw a video on YouTube, and it had this wonderful, catchy title, The Top 10 Foods That Destroy Your Heart. And it's so catchy, and it's such a mind candy, right? It pulls you in.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, what's this guy got that he knows that I don't know?
Right. And I'm going to give you the top 10 from number 10 to number 1 that he put in, because part of this whole conversation is a lot of people know part of the answer, and that's usually enough to be really, really dangerous if you just follow what they say. And we're hoping that today we can start you on the journey where you can see for yourself the flaws in the logic, all right? Because there are very good principles, right? Like we know you don't drink sewer water, you drink clean water, right? There's lots of things that we know we take for granted, but we don't apply those to a lot of the information that goes out there. And that's really what we want to do. So according to this gentleman, the top 10 foods that destroy your heart: number 10, rice. Number 9, bread. Number 8, alcohol. Number 7, ultra-processed foods. Number 6, fast foods. Number 5, seed oils. Number 3, margarine. Number 2, donuts. Number 1, sugar. So Martin, there's a problem with this list. What is it?
Well, there are really only 2 types of foods that he listed here. He listed carbohydrates and lipids or fats. And he's on the right track, right? There are good fats and bad fats. There are good carbs and bad carbs. And in the carbs, it's really easy to spot the bad ones because they are refined. So rice and bread and other things made with refined flour. So they are all listed there. I could have just said high level of carbohydrates is going to put, when ingested, carbohydrates, well, let's start differently. Starch. Starch is the content of the grains, and the starch is taken apart by amylase, the enzyme, into individual glucose molecules, and the glucose will get in your blood and raise the glucose level. People often mistakenly say blood sugar. It's blood glucose, because sugar, the white stuff that you put, that you have in your kitchen, is actually sucrose, and sucrose is made up of 2 molecules bound together. One is glucose and the other one is fructose. And fructose has 5 carbons, glucose has 6 carbons. Fructose is common in fruit, and glucose is common in starch. And it's the glucose that converts into energy in our human body. And the problem with it is that we need to maintain the level. When you put too much glucose in, it's followed by a hit of insulin. Insulin's job is twofold. One, helps to guide the glucose inside the cells that need it. And 2, if they don't need it, it's supposed to take the glucose and convert it through the pathway of triglyceride into lipid, body fat. People often mistake insulin for a tool that manages glucose level in the blood. The primary task for insulin is to create storage of fat, which is energy stored long-term for times of famine. Because back when we were developing, we used to have days when we got no food, and that's when we needed the fat reserves. So my rant, talking about a guy who says, well, these are 10 things. No, he has 2 things. He has carbohydrates, one of which is also alcohol, and the other one he has fats, and he has them in 2 categories, seed oil and margarine. And what you do is seed oils are not really good for you. They are too high in omega-6s, and that seed oil essentially contributes to a great deal of unhealth. And if you want to solidify that seed oil, you run it through a process called hydrogenation, which turns it into a solid at room temperature item, and that's called margarine.
I wanted to jump in with just one quick comment on the seed oil, because once again, we have blanketed seeds, but that's not 100%. It's not 100%, right? Because we have hemp seed, we have flax seed, we have, there was another one I forgot now.
Well, common one is called canola, which is very common in foods.
Rapeseed. So those are, like rapeseed, canola, the stuff that you see on the grocery shelf in a plastic bottle that's been there for 6 months. Those are the bad seeds. But we also have seed oils that are not bad, like flax seed oil, hemp seed oil. And there was another one.
Those are the best. Pumpkin seed oil is also awesome.
Right.
But these need to be stored in the refrigerated section of the store. Like flax seed oil that's healthy has to be either freshly made, like you have your actual flax seeds in your possession and you actually do that, or you buy the expensive flax seed oil, which we do sell under the brand of Andreas seed oil, and that's extracted under slow speed, low temperature, without the peroxidation, which also goes by rancidity, and it's stored in Miron glass, the beautiful violet glass bottle.
Right. So one of the things about you just brought it up, and I want to talk about it a little bit in more depth, is processed foods is on the list. And you talked about just now about it's cold processed seed oil, it's this and that. And what happens with, you have a piece of food that is really good, really nutritious. And then what we do is we stick it into a manufacturing plant and we squish out and grind out and burn out all of the nutrition. So you're basically left with like the charcoal that you see at a fire once it's finished burning, right? Like there's really nothing nutritious for us in that. And that's a big part of the problem when you get to this highly processed food.
Well, he correctly pointed out this magic thing called donut. A donut is you start with refined flour. You make the donut out of that. You throw it into a deep fryer. So you fry it in high temperature seed oil. I mean, you could fry it in lard, which would be healthier than frying it in seed oil. But most commonly, they will use plant seed oils rather than animal fats, mistakenly. But still, that's what they'll do. And then once it's fried, you pull it out and then you coat it with sugar. Just plain old, what is it called? That powdery white stuff that when you blow on it, it goes like, pff. That's
icing sugar.
Oh, that's the word. I don't even know the names for it because it's not in my world.
Right. And it is a shift to go from super processed cardboard food with no nutrition to real living food. And that's part of the journey that we want to take you on. So that kind of covers the top 10 foods that destroy your heart, according to this YouTube guru. And so the next thing that I did was I went to AI and I said, Mr. AI, what are the top 10 foods that'll destroy your heart? And it came up with a list of 10 items, 2 of which we think are really wrong. And it brings us to a lesson when it comes to AI. AI just looks at all the information out there, learns it really, really fast, but it doesn't have any judgment. It doesn't know if this person is right and that person is wrong. It just takes the two things that they say and fits it into the list as best it can. Or maybe if there's 20 people that say one thing and one person that says the other thing, but the 20 people are wrong, the one is right, it's going to go with the 20 people. So
okay, well, let's read out the list of AI choices, right?
the first one is processed meats. So high in sodium, saturated fats, and preservatives. Examples would be bacon, sausage, hot dogs, and deli meats.
Okay. I don't know if they're directly bad for your heart. I mean, anything that has saltpeter in it, which is the what the heck is that called? I don't remember the chemical of it. Sodium nitrate, is that the name?
Well, yes.
Nitrates. That's the stuff.
Nitrate.
Yeah. So that's not healthy for sure. Okay. Sugary beverages. That's the next choice, right? High sugar, absolutely bad idea because it's high carbohydrate. Fast food, well, there goes. Combination of refined flour, refined sugar, and then add to it fried food.
Yeah, bad oils. It's doing really well so far. Commercial baked goods. Now, the bakers are going to dislike this, but it's loaded with trans fats, refined sugars, refined flour, icing sugar that we talked about. So donuts, pastries, cookies, and cakes. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the carbohydrate, right? Like I outlined it. You hit your body with a starch. It takes it apart into the pure glucose and overloads your body with too much glucose.
Yeah. And the next one is excessive alcohol. So
Same story. Too much carb.
Story. Now we get into fried foods. Okay. So high in unhealthy fats and calories, clogging the arteries, French fries, fried chicken, and deep fried snacks. So, some of these are obviously the same as the first.
They're salted snack. What was it? Is it a salted beef jerky or is it a salted pretzel stick?
Ritz crackers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pure flour with pure margarine with pure salt.
Yeah.
Yep. Not good.
Not good. Butter and cream. Okay. So, Martin, is butter and cream a bad thing to eat?
Well, so here they are attacking saturated fats. They have the butter and cream and right next after it red meat. And both of these things are leaning onto the notion that animal fat is bad for you. It's total nonsense. All of the ancestors of ours who lived in colder climates north of 45 would be very well adapted to eating animal fat. There is no link that nutritional ingested cholesterol, which this is rich in, will actually cause rise in cholesterol levels in response. The only thing that will raise your cholesterol in response to food intake is starch. So, they're listing cholesterol. Well, this is the old pablum from the 1970s when they came up with this idea that's so not scientific at all. They came up with the idea that eating low fat was going to make us healthy. The only thing it did, it made us obese and diabetic.
The opposite.
The absolute opposite. You couldn't do worse if you tried.
Yeah. And when you think of the brain, how much cholesterol is the brain made of?
What's made of it?
Yeah, a huge amount. So
well, and here's what happens. You take the cholesterol eliminating or lowering prescription drugs, it actually makes you stupid. The most common problem for especially women who are experiencing dementia is that you first question you ask them, are you on a statin drug?
Right.
And they are. And shouldn't be.
So butter and cream, red meat, they're high in the right types of fats that our body needs and cholesterol that our body needs. It's the basic building block of yeah. So beef, lamb, pork. I guess chicken's not red meat.
No. Yeah,
you know,
and I think chicken fat is perfectly fine. Nobody should skim the fat off of their chicken soup.
right. And what about the skin of the chicken? Nothing
Well,
wrong.
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Not that I can tell.
Okay. And the last one was highly processed grains, which of course we've talked about and talked about and talked about.
Bingo. That is the number one thing that you should definitely be aware of. That is going to be the jackpot in your journey toward health. Highly processed anything, especially grains. And the worst culprits, corn, soy, wheat.
Okay. So I had a fairly wide waist about 20 years ago, and I cut
Like
out
a 40?
I don't know how much it was actually. I never I don't recall. I didn't think it was that bad, but I decided I needed to do something. So no pasta, no bread, no rice. And I think there was probably one other thing that there was no of. And so I had to find alternatives to eat. And after a certain period of time, like months and months and months, I had to take my suit in to the tailor and get it brought in, right? So I went back 2 weeks later and to get my suit, and it was a young East Indian fellow, and he would be probably in the 27 to 33 range, and he looked I was going to say like a pumpkin, but he was his legs came up, and then he was round, and then
he was apple-shaped.
Pear-shaped.
Okay.
And or apple-shaped, right?
Yeah,
and
big middle.
Yeah, big in the middle. And he looked at me and he said, "What did you do?" And I didn't know what he was talking about at first, right? And I said, "Well, I cut out these foods for the last 4 or 5 months." And really, I mean, I like to walk and everything, but it wasn't like I went on this huge exercise thing or anything else. The weight just gently dropped off. So, Martin, so we're talking about taking stuff out that's harming you. We're talking about taking out bread, taking out pasta, taking out rice, potatoes was the other one.
Yes.
And, none of that stuff. And you don't have to go down to 0, but right now you're probably at 1,000. So you can get down to 50. Okay. And you're the metabolic typing expert, Martin. So is there any metabolic type that when they cut out highly processed grains and tubers like we've talked about and bad oils, that's going to have a negative impact on the shape of their body in terms of fat?
That question's answering itself, isn't it? Well, here's the main point. There are 3 main types. It's called endocrine dominance, and you have thyroid, adrenal, and pituitary. Women also can have the ovarian dominance. But anyway, the thyroid dominant loves starchy things and gains weight that way. Like the apple shape, the big belly, big waistline, that's the thyroid type eating too much starch, carbohydrates. You lose weight eating fat if you're that type. Now, if you're the adrenal, you're different. You have cravings for savory foods, not for starchy foods, and you will gain weight on fat. So you actually do need to, if you're that type, then you need to be eating salads and fruits in order to slim down. And the last one, that's the pituitary. They love creamy and fluffy things. So their kryptonite would be ice cream, whipping cream, and cake. And they would need to cut back on that. And their health food, if you can believe it, is the most red of the red meats: heart, tongue, liver, kidney, the offal, or inner organs of the animal. That's their health food. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is refined food always has lots of calories and no nutrients other than the calories. And we're going right back. Corn, soy, wheat, and potatoes. And the red potato and the orange potato, like the yam type of thing, they all are really rich in starch relative to what they offer. So make a big salad and eat just a couple of potatoes. Make a big stir fry with half a cup of rice, not 2. Right? It's the balances.
Exactly. And for some of us, we need to really make a commitment to doing that. And one of the ways that you can get started on that, I think that's probably the best, is to sit down and talk one-on-one with Martin, because he's the health coach. He understands this better than just about anybody else in the world. And
really? Don't blow smoke off my way.
You've been doing it for 40 years, if you don't know it by now. And we offer a free 15-minute consultation to get you started. Martin is not a high-pressure salesman at all, as you can see from the talks that we've had, and he'll tell you the way it is. So life-enthusiast.com/shop/life-enthusiast-health-coach will take you to that page, and you can sign up and get talking with Martin. Your life will change. Now, we have also put together a group on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/Life Enthusiast Group. And,
Join us.
Yes, join us. We do a lot of stuff there. And every Thursday, we are live in the group and in other places too. So if you're not in the group, you're probably going to see us in other places. But every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. And you may or may not be aware, and actually I was just on Twitter this morning, Martin, and I was amazed at the number of doctors that were posting about their experiences over the last 3 years when they pushed back against the pandemic and the lockdowns and all the different things that were being done medically, and how they were threatened with loss of license and threatened with this and threatened with that. And so we're always concerned, being on Facebook and YouTube and other places, that we might get censored and banned, but there's one place that we found where that's not the case. And so every Sunday at 12 Eastern and 9 Pacific, we're on Telegram, and you can find us at t.me/lifentco. So LIFENTCO. And you'll be able to ask questions. Martin will answer you. He'll give you the straight goods. And it's basically Martin uncensored. You just don't want to miss it. All right. So we've kind of got that stuff out of the way. Martin, we've been talking about problems with the heart health and things to avoid. But there's some things that people can do that will really help them, right? And one of them is an excellent product that I really like called Heart Studies Formula. And so talk a little bit about that before we
Right. It got its name by the fellow that formulated it, Javari Oberon. He printed out all the available heart studies, and it was a stack of paper about 3 feet tall. And he went through all of it and sifted through what worked and what didn't work. And that's how he ended up naming it the Heart Studies Formula. And in it, he found ways to give answers to 2 main problems: clogging of the arteries and hardening of the arteries. Those are things that happen physiologically as a consequence of our lifestyle. It's the foods that we eat that do this. And it's primarily, you have 2 enemies: inflammation and antioxidants, right? Or oxidative stress would be the word. The oxidation, it's the burning of the foods, turning them into energy. That in itself is an act of oxidation, and you need to have antioxidants to limit that damage. So it's loaded with that, and it's loaded with tools, amino acids, phenols, minerals. Like, for example, two trace minerals that are exceedingly important, like chromium and vanadium, they're really, really good at helping the body process glucose. And so when you have enough of them, you will have a much easier time managing the energy. I don't know, the list of ingredients in the Heart Studies formula is very long, but it has in it all the bits that you need or your body needs in order to reverse whatever aging type of damage has happened to you because of what you've been putting on your fork.
Right. And as we've been talking about for the last half hour, there's not a lot of nutrition in the majority of food that the majority of people are eating. So when you get into a superfood that's nutrient dense, you're going to be getting all of that nutrients that you're just not getting right now. And that's going to make a huge difference. The next one I want to talk a little bit about is magnesium oil. It's because we're stressed out, and magnesium is going to relax you.
Right. There's an important thing in our body. It's called the autonomic nervous system. The one side, sympathetic, fight, flight. The other, parasympathetic, rest and repair and digest. And so if you are stressed, you are not repairing. The only time you're repairing is when you're in the parasympathetic mode. And magnesium is the antidote to the stress. Calcium activates sympathetic, magnesium activates parasympathetic. When you apply magnesium topically, we call it magnesium oil. People have been calling it that, but it's really a water-based solution of magnesium chloride. When you apply it to your body, to your skin, especially to your feet, for some reason, it gets absorbed, take it up into the interstitial fluids, and manage all of the functions. Magnesium, it's involved in 300 different physiological processes. Every time your muscle is lengthened, magnesium is involved. Every time a signal is traveling down the nervous system, there's this gap. And in order to cross the gap, calcium and magnesium have to be present. So if you have deficiency of magnesium, and most of us do because the soils are lacking magnesium, you need to supplement it.
There you go. And the last one we want to talk about is Nattocore.
Aha. That's an awesome product. Natto, N-A-T-T-O, is a enzyme that's used to ferment soybeans in Japan. It's a very smelly kind of a thing. It's definitely an acquired taste. People who like natto, well, they like it. Soy is quite okay to eat when it's fermented. And there are 3 ways of fermenting soy. Miso is one of them. Natto is another. So anyway, natto kinase is the enzyme that makes the natto happening. And its main benefit inside of the human body is that it prevents blood clotting, unwanted blood clotting. You do want to have your blood clot when it's exposed to air. Like if you cut your hand and the blood starts gushing out, you want the blood clotting to take place right at the surface where it forms a scab and stops the blood from oozing out of you. Which, by the way, is a huge problem for people who are using blood thinners. Because blood thinners like warfarin or heparin are making your blood not coagulate. It prevents a blood clot on the inside, but it also prevents a blood clot on the outside. So if you're on a blood thinner and you cut yourself, you're in real trouble. Whereas natto prevents the blood from clotting on the inside. And blood clots are really unwanted because if you have a blood clot traveling through your bloodstream, it may end up in a small artery in your heart. And when that happens, it creates a blockage, and then blood cannot get to the heart muscle, and that will create a heart attack. And if it gets into your brain and blocks a piece of your brain, the oxygen deprivation will cause a stroke. Not fun.
Right. So this is a real concern, because we're seeing a huge increase in sudden things happening to people.
Yeah, people have been noticing that in the last 3-4 years that blood clotting has become a real issue.
Yeah. So you want to have something that addresses that in a can we say organic way, so that
it's organic, holistic, natural,
and
non-chemical,
minimum amount of worse side effects.
And actually without a downside, because it does not cause you to bleed. It only facilitates the I don't know what to call it. Well, it just doesn't clot when it shouldn't.
Right. That's perfect. That's the solution. All right. Well, Martin, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating half hour together, as usual. I just want to remind everybody that on Sunday, join us on Telegram at 12 noon and 9 Eastern. Let me just see if I can find that link.
It's the other way around. 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern.
9 Pacific, 12 Eastern. Sorry. And t.me/life&co. And we'll see you there, and join us every Thursday here. And next week, we're going to be talking about the top 10 foods you must eat as we continue our top 10 list. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.